Welcome to Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. This is the place where we unravel social constructs, discuss self-development in line with mental health, and everything in between that directly or indirectly affects us in the millennial world around us. I am your host, Nabuguzi Kiwanuka, a lawyer, founder, team lead of Equate Foundation, a lover of conversations, and a professional unraveler of social constructs. If you're hearing my voice for the first time, welcome to this podcast. And if you're a returned subscriber, man, the Nigerian way, welcome to yet another episode of insightful, unraveling, and thought-provoking conversations. So we survived the ever so turbulent 366 days of 2020 and managed to transition into 2021. But that has not stopped us from talking about the pandemic. Its existence metastasized from the health sectors to various sectors, and one of the most affected in Uganda is the education sector. The virus's proliferation going out of hand has left many parents, educators, and the students in limbo. So in this episode, I talked to an exceptional educator, Nirere Shamim, at the close of 2020. She is the founder of Izere Education, a social enterprise whose principal purpose is to empower today's child with tools to thrive in their 21st century future. Nirere's belief in education beyond the confines of the typical classroom has continued to produce change makers whose creative minds are a necessity to doing life going forward. This conversation is pertinent to you and I, and it's also pertinent in filling up the gaps in our education system, and I cannot wait for you to hear her talk about what kind of education is necessary for the child of the 21st century. Listen in. Hi, Shamim.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
My name is Shamim Nirere.
Yeah.
I'm 29 years old, soon making 30 next year. I am an educator, I'm a teacher. Mm-hmm. I've been educating for over 10 years now.
10?
Yeah.
That's like from the age of 19.
Yeah, because at 19 I was at university, and that's when I began school practice.
Yeah.
So I am the team leader at Izere Education. Mm-hmm. Our vision is really quality 21st century learning outcomes for all, not only for the haves, but also for the children from low-income communities. Like the kind of education someone gets in Kampala should be the same as the education we get in Kanungo, maybe when I come from, or Kalamoja. But then that education in overall should really give today's child the wings to thrive in their future, in the future that is not our future, in their future that is so disruptive, the future that is so full of that needs flexibility, that needs creativity, that needs all the things. That is a global community. It's a global village where a child from Uganda will sit on the same table with a child from Dubai and a child from the US. So the kind of education our child should have is our work rotates on that.
Yeah. What did you want to be while growing up?
I actually wanted to, maybe when I was younger, I don't remember, but what I remember so well in my senior 3, it hit me that actually teachers are the most smart people ever. Really? So there was this child I was helping with homework, holiday work, and I was in senior 3 and they were in primary. So I told them the answer and they said no, they didn't believe me. They said, okay, anyway, I'll ask my teacher tomorrow. Yeah. I was like, wow, don't we all go to teachers? Like, they know everything. So from that time I actually really wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. And even when I was in senior 6, even when I could perform so well to go on any other course, I just chose education. It was the only thing I applied for in my career, and I got it.
Right from S3, you knew what you wanted to be.
I really wanted to be a teacher.
And you didn't consider anything else?
I am passionate about law. As a matter of fact, I started reading law thrillers, John Grisham books as a teenager. So of course, I in my other life I would want to be a lawyer, but I didn't even go to law school.
You sure do sound like a reader.
I love, that's how much I love being a teacher. So I am a teacher.
It's quite interesting because no one just comes up at this. Because most educators have been placed there because they applied for government sponsorship.
Thank you. And it's unfortunate. Let me break you a bit there.
Yeah.
So many children who have passed so well and they're on government sponsorship, the minute you put education by mistake on your application, you give an education. Yes,
you've actually said it by mistake.
And it's unfortunate because then we have people coming into education who are really frustrated, who are so not happy to be there, and of course they are doing it as the last option, or they can't wait to get done with the course and just drop it all together. They are afraid to say they are doing education. So it's
actually confident. I've experienced it with a couple of people. You ask them, so what did you do at campus? Like, they gave me education, but there's a but that has to come into play.
I remember when I was at university, we used to go to have internet at Faculty of Technology. That's where the Wi-Fi was around university. That's the only place you would get Wi-Fi those days. Yes. So when we got there,
when you say those days, you make it sound like so long ago.
No, it's around 2013, 2012.
Yeah.
Because I joined 2010 to 2013, so I graduated 2014. But most of my classmates, most of them, it was fun. We would identify ourselves as, I'm doing software engineering, I'm doing this. You wouldn't want to be associated to be an education student. Yes, because even at university, the attitude towards education students is like they are from the village. They are people who didn't perform well.
It even goes as far as performance.
There are people without future. They don't have good jobs, and it's a hard course. We are doing so many course units than any other course at university. So education, I hear you when you say most children are pressed there when they don't like it.
Yeah. And do you think there is something that society does that pushes us to have this kind of mindset around educators?
Yes, so much. Of course, they are least paid. The money. The good thing is that education jobs are always available, but the way society takes the teacher is like a lesser person, like you don't even have aspiration in life. I mean, like you are born to just teach and be in the classroom. What do you know? Like, why do you even need money?
Come from the hands of educators.
Why do you even need money? Like,
why do you need money?
Yeah, they look, because even some teachers will go to negotiate with the client and they'll say, but you're a teacher. I mean, you can take that, Yes. So our society has a very negative perception of an educator, and it's really unfortunate. Yeah.
What differences do you think you have made? Are there any differences in light of... I don't even think that's the right question. Because you already wanted to be an educator. You didn't come out from... The question that I was going to ask would make sense if you didn't want it before, and then you got to like it much later on.
Still, I can't say this. So my training, my degree, I'm a teacher for languages, for English and literature in English.
Yes.
And maybe general paper for secondary. But when I was teaching in my first years, even as a student teacher, and the first year as a teacher is I would find myself teaching life skills more. Like for me, if you're in my general paper class and you're in senior 5 and you can't look me in the eye and speak, or you can't communicate, you can't speak confidently, for me that would be a problem. I would then stop everything I'm teaching and we first focus on that.
Yeah.
So I found myself leaning more on building children's confidence, having conversation that sparkle their creativity, to get them to think maybe 20 years, to get them to have those conversations. And I found myself leaning so much on child development, personal development than teaching. So I I chose to get out. I mean, instead of teaching vocabulary.
You decided to get out
of the classroom.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't really fulfilled teaching what tenses, and not to say that the people who teach it is it's not good. It is good. I mean,
it doesn't just communicate with your spirit.
I am here. I'm speaking to you because the teacher taught me how to communicate in English and the right tenses. So I appreciate them, but for me, I wasn't fulfilled in that. I thought, as a teacher, you're so much more. Like you have this power in your hands to transform a child, to transform a being, to really shape their destiny, to get them to believe in themselves. Because we have some teachers who have impacted our life beyond even just teaching us math and English.
Thank you.
So I wasn't fulfilled in the classroom, and I got out.
Yeah.
And I still do stuff. I teach. I do consultancy for schools. I do teacher trainings. I teach every day, but I don't teach in a way, in the classroom way of saying this is the syllabus, we are completing it, and this is what I have to teach. I want to create that impact. I want to see, through me, I want to be an educator who transforms a child or a community or the whole world.
What hinged you to that? Because we are in a setup whereby we just flow with what life dictates. I don't know if that's your kind of life, but what pushed you to make a difference? Is there something that you might have experienced personally and you felt like something has to be done differently?
I do not remember anything personal, but of course growing up I was actually very timid, extremely shy and timid, and I grew out of it. But when I taught for a small time, and I went to do some consultancy work in another country to train teachers and all, and from that time, like when you're on the sides, like when you literally get out of like the pitch and you sit on the sides as a coach or as a referee and see what's happening, it sort of gives you a fresh perspective than when you're in. So I saw so much. I saw the quality of education that's happening in Africa, because that was not in Uganda but was in East Africa. So the quality of teachers we have, the quality of learning, the frustrations teachers have, you're just teaching because you have to teach and complete the syllabus. I saw so much that really, I saw we are leaving so much on the table. We cannot just teach a child to finish the syllabus and you're not looking at them.
Exams.
You're not looking at them. And now, because we are in the global village, I've tried so much to educate myself about the global trends and what kind of education should be happening in schools. So when you see what's the crisis of education that's happening in the US, in those first world countries, vis-a-vis what's here, we are not even bothered, and yet those people who we consider to be on a high level, they are bothered, they have a crisis on their hands. So for me, that was a disaster. Like really, I cannot be doing this. There is so much to be done. There is so much we need to do in our education to empower a child to be on the same level, to sit on the same table with someone in a first world economy and speak confidently. So maybe I would rather use my teaching English and teach communication. Like, what's the purpose of a child knowing tenses and they cannot tap into, they can't communicate and they can't tap into, maybe they can write, we are in blogging, vlogging, all that. They're just limited to passing that UNEB test, but they're not using that skill of communication. And so really, what are we doing? For me, I know I cannot be part of that. I can't, no.
Yeah, you can't be part of the status quo.
I can't. Like, who is going to come and fix this?
Exactly. So when you speak about your experience in your first year when you were teaching and you realized a child could not even look you into the eye, and you went as far as teacher training. Do you call it teacher training? When you're on the side and you witnessed what was happening in the education system, what kind of education do you think is important for a child?
That's a great question. So right now, we have two children right now. We have a child who is like you, who's in the Kampala, in the city, and maybe they come from a middle-income family. They go and study. They see people working, like they're exposed to they're already at a certain level. They are confident.
Yeah.
They're in a school that by society standards is considered good.
Yeah.
And they're okay. And then we have this other child in the village who is struggling through adolescence with so many challenges from a poor background. They're struggling with poverty. They can't even afford a book. They basically, they don't have any person they are looking up to. They don't have the dream. So the kind of education now those two people need, it's the same, but then this other one needs even more. So let me begin with this child in the village.
Yeah.
With no dreams, an adolescent girl who's 15 right now,
looking forward to marriage.
They don't even have a book, and so when someone comes and gives them maybe money for a book or money for a basic thing, they would, it's huge for them.
They feel indebted, actually.
Yes, and of course they can even drop out and get married because actually there is lack. When at home the communication there is not about, okay, so what's the future about? So you're going to do this. They don't even know what they want to be when they grow up. Yes, I don't believe in the question of what you want to be when you grow up.
You don't? We'll get to that.
We'll get to that.
We'll surely get to that.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But at least this child in the town already has a base. They know they want to be neurosurgeons, you know. They want to be pilots, they want to be lawyers, they want to be engineers. They have a start. So these two children, first of all, they need, of course, they need the same education, but for this one in the village, they need guidance, they need inspiration, they need you need to build their esteem first, to believe in themselves, and to know that there's, to get them into like getting them to see the future even before they get there, so that even when they have all these challenges, you come from a poor family, you don't have the basic things, so that you have that will to stay in school regardless of the challenges. So when I saw that the government is investing so much in infrastructure, in paying teachers and building schools, but we are not really investing in the child. So if all those are there, then what is keeping the child in school? For me, my approach is we use their dreams and their aspirations to keep them in school. So that even when you don't have a pad, a sanitary towel, you can figure out a way, but stay in school because
there's a dream you're actually chasing.
There's a dream you're chasing, because you want to transform your community, because there's a challenge you want to solve in your community. That is another question. That is some part of education they really, really need. And because in villages, UPE schools, we have overwhelming numbers, you can't blame teachers. You can't give that one-on-one thing to 1,000 students. It's not possible.
I mean, even the teachers themselves are not motivated.
That's even another story. And you can't really blame them, because they have so much work to do. There's little pay, and even they have their personal problems. You've
made such an important point when you mentioned that it's important for the kid to have a goal, a dream. Because I've had a couple of scenarios whereby there are drives for pads, right, to protect girls from dropping out of school. And I've actually come to a place whereby if they have a dream, they cannot just let the period put them away from that dream.
I want to get back to that question in depth, but let me first answer the other one of, so what kind of education should we be giving our child? So now we've said, after giving this child the opportunity to dream and first see their future even before they get there, now what kind of education should we be giving them? Now this doesn't even apply for just children, even adults, young adults at university, or even young adults out there. You need to put a test to your knowledge in 4 ways. Right now, the 21st century education, we look at, number one, the knowledge, what you know and understand, what you studied. That's mathematics, history, physics, all that. What did you study, for example? Then we look at the skills, then we look at the character, and then we look at the metacognition. Let me explain. So the first one, knowledge, what you know and understand. Everybody goes to school to study math, history, chemistry, and all that. Maybe I didn't study chemistry, I studied languages, you studied maybe commerce, even at university I've studied something. But beyond our children learning this math and English, they need to learn things about the knowledge that is right now, like global things. We are talking about sustainable development goals. For example, the world's to-do list, that sustainable development goals up to 2030. A child should know that as a world, as a country, as a continent, what are we trying to achieve? These are the SDGs.
You can't believe I only got to know about SDGs when I was in law class.
Of course, now we are doing great. I see people teaching them at university, but these are conversations we should be having.
They were existent before. I feel cheated. Now that you mention it, I didn't think it was important.
There's a child I'm coaching right now from the UK. He is 8 years, and recently he was doing a project, and his project was a PowerPoint presentation about climate change.
PowerPoint at 8?
Yes, at 8 years. 3 hours: reuse, recycle, and reduce. And that child will tell you why we need to reduce on the plastics we use, why we need to recycle. 8. Yes, honey. I was shocked. So those are
even you, the coach.
Yes, but for me, the children we coach, we teach them the things. And I think also children in international schools learn about them. So things like, what is the world's to-do list? We have climate change, for example.
Basically, what's happening in the world.
Yes, so our child right now should know that, for example, last year towards December 2019, actually the whole 2019, we had so much wet season in Uganda. It was Lake Victoria, or the water was the high level on the highest.
That was this year, though.
No, it was towards 2019 up to 2020, but the whole of 2019 up to early 2020.
Because there's a way how this year looks like 2 years.
Yeah, and actually this year. So the rain was high. So, and then you have to ask yourself, so how does this concern me when the levels of water are rising? There is so much climate change happening. If we cut down trees and we are having, and actually before 2019, in 2018 we had the hottest season ever, like in a long time. It was so hot. I remember that sun. So a child should know that we, as a country, as a world, we have a problem of climate change. So those are the themes, like sustainability, global peace, like what are those? So beyond knowing math, you need to know all those things. What does it mean when we are cutting down our trees? What does it mean when the government cuts on the cost of gas, because now it's a bit cheaper? It means they're promoting gas over firewood. So that's number one, the knowledge and the knowledge they should have. Then number two is the skills. So how do you apply this knowledge? What did you study at university?
Law.
Oh, you're a law student. Wow. Hey, crush.
I'm a lawyer.
You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. Great. So if you studied law right now, so we go to the how you apply that knowledge. Now you already have that knowledge. How do you apply it? So we look at the forces, the commonly one: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration.
Okay.
Right now, how are you being creative about the knowledge you got from law school? You know, how are you? Okay, let me use my example maybe. Because right now we do consultants in education, we do programs for parents, for children, and for communities. I'm being creative about the knowledge I got as an education student.
For clarity for our listeners, when you speak we, when you say we are doing this,
I am.
Who are the we?
We, Izere Education, or I am. Okay, let me use I am doing that. So in other words, if you're a teacher and you're a teacher of mathematics, there's so much you can do with the knowledge of the education you got. Because in education we study to be psychologists, we study psychology, child development, we really study so much.
You got first psychology?
Yeah, every education
I'm so sorry to say this, but some teachers are so ruthless. They don't look like they have some psychological classes. It's because
they're battling a lot themselves. So you know, if you do not handle, if you do not take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. And no one takes care of our teachers. No one.
It makes sense.
Most people don't really think about teachers in that way. So you need to be creative about your knowledge, so that, because right now creativity is such a big skill. Right now, if you studied something, ask yourself, in which ways can I be creative about this, about my knowledge, so that you just don't say I have a degree in this and you're not applying, you're not using it. Then the other one is communication. That is huge. Communication is a huge skill today. We look at let's begin with communication. How are you communicating about the law you studied? Right now you can blog about law, you can educate us about law, you're communicating about that. Definitely I will know that, I see blogs about law. You have a podcast right now, right? This podcast is communication. These are new ways of communicating. So you are using that communication, you are using the knowledge. So people are knowledgeable out there, but not many people know that you know
how
what
to
you
be
know.
creative about the knowledge.
Or even communicating about what you know. So that ability to just speak and say, I do this and I can do this, or even just being a speaker in your field and telling people what you know, so that we know that actually you can do that. Otherwise, communication is so big. And which ways of communication are new? Like you can have a YouTube channel. Right now I'm so shocked, people are scrambling to look for knowledge from teachers because of the lockdown. But imagine if teachers had their YouTube channels or their blogs, and I know that if I need notes of English or literature or history, there's this teacher who is this, and I'll pay for that, so you're being creative about your knowledge, and you're communicating. So those are skills you have to really, really, really take seriously. You communicate. Communication is not only for the people who right now we are communicating digitally, social media, Google. You optimize your visibility. You really communicate, because we are in a state of abundance. There are so many skills right now. So how do you stand out? When you don't. What
makes you different?
And you also need to learn how to communicate.
You've spoken about how creative teachers could be, and it reminded me about Babu something. He's an MP in Kenya, and because he's good at maths, I don't even know if he's a teacher. During the lockdown, he was holding classes on his Facebook page. He's a politician. I was like, he's crazy. He's a crazy Babu. I think he has been here to Uganda and he got arrested. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Because he's pro-Bobby Wine. And I think he got arrested or something happened. He's some crazy politician in Kenya. He was using his Facebook page and even YouTube to teach math. And I was like, no one else is doing this.
Those are new ways of communication. It's a skill that you don't need to learn. Like you need to really, really learn to communicate. Speak, write, listen, talk. Like there's so much you can do. Right now the social media industry is growing so high, and teenagers who are as early as like 15, they can be content creators. They can do this because they can write. They're learning creative writing. So apart from learning creative writing to pass UNAB, you can use that to actually do that. We have children who are blogging in our communication class, and we pay them for their blogs. So that's a skill. Then the critical thinking is also big. It's from critical thinking that we problem solve, that we solve problems in our community. When you are a lawyer right now, and you see one of the challenges we have right now, and how can you critically look at the community and actually solve problems around, look at the challenges we have, design a way of solving them, and actually use that knowledge to solve it in critical ways. And also we are in a time of fake news and fake things, so you need to be critical about how you take in information, how you sieve something, how you really need that critical thinking skill to solve problems, to be creative, and actually even decipher information and know what is useful and what's not useful, how to do this and how not to do it.
When you speak about critical thinking as a skill, is it a skill?
It is a skill.
When you talk about it as a skill that is important in our education system, is this something that is only a burden to the teachers? Is it right to call it a burden?
To do what?
Is the onus on the teachers to...
No. The onus is... You see, I advocate for all of us to be educators. Because
all of us should be educators.
We should be educators. Nabuguzi...
You know, you're always blushing, so calls me that name.
What's your favorite name?
Like currently, I'm getting into this system of Nabuguzi. So every time someone calls me,
I like that name because I am so inclined to African names so much.
Yeah.
So right now you know so much that someone doesn't know. So instead of complaining and saying, but our education system,
what are you doing about it?
That intern who is at your workplace, who doesn't know how to write a report. Really, we have a problem of unemployment. Why should they lose a job because they don't know how to communicate? If you know something, teach them. If their attitude has a problem, help them, teach them. If I'm a parent at home, why should I complain that teachers are not teaching something at school?
What are you doing about it?
What are you doing about it? Because you go to work every day, you see the skills that are needed. Teach them to your child. So the onus is on our teachers, of course, but
as the primary. You have come to the end of the first segment of this educational conversation with Nirere, and my takeaway from this episode is that if your dream and aspirations are identified, achieving your goals is easier. So while we get into the second segment of the conversation, in which she expounds on how best we can educate the child of the 21st century, what is your aspiration? Make sure you're subscribed into your podcast platform of choice so that you don't miss out on the rest of the conversation with Nirere in episode 17. Catch you there.